But I think we're good. Are you good?
I feel good.
Yeah.
Na-na-na-na-na-na.
I feel good. snoCast! Hello everyone, welcome to another brand new snoCast. Today is a very fun and exciting episode. I'm joined by the ever delightful and very, very pretty, as always, Used Potato, or Chris from the channel Used Potato. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, I was talking to Snowman about this earlier, but I've been spending way too much money recently, so I'm happy, I guess.
You get new things, but then you're poor.
There you go. And I also work at a bowling alley, too, so it's not very busy during the summer, so they have no work for me, and I don't get very many hours at all, so it's all the better.
Is that fun, working at a bowling alley? I feel like it'd be fun.
Oh, I have a lot of fun. I'm just a general worker, I do everything, but it's just slow during the summer, and I didn't have the opportunity to work during busy season yet, so hopefully during the fall.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, man.
I like it.
Hey, yeah, I would. But anyway, Chris is from the YouTube channel Used Potato. Tell us a little bit about what you do on the YouTube space so we can check you out.
Well, as Snowman just said, my name is Christopher. I come from the YouTube helldom known as Used Potato. It might be ChrisTheFields in the future, depending on whether or not this uploads, because I am rebranding.
Oh,
but,
okay.
That's besides the point. What I do on YouTube, it's just kind of the generic things you see before. I guess I focus a lot on reviews, but I like to pride myself more on a variety of things than just reviews. I also do top 10s. I do a series called Why It's Amazing, where I just geek out about a game for 5 to 10 minutes. I do some other skits with my good buddy, Other Chris, who is not just me from a different camera angle. He is totally another real person. And more shows coming in the future along with the rebranding. So that's who I am.
That's exciting. I didn't know about a rebranding. That's good though. I saw your new logo or face logo icon, so that's good.
Yes.
It looked good. I liked that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, we'll be looking out for that in the future, a new rebrand. Yeah, very, very good stuff. Always great stuff. Yeah, you're right about the Other Chris. That's my favorite thing.
That's your favorite? I love that a lot. It wasn't an accident, but it was just kind of... That was something I did because I don't trust other people to do videos with me because they'll take it in another creative direction than I would. So that's kind of why there's two Chris's to that. And little behind the scenes for you there.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. So our topic today, which was suggested by Chris actually, was just video game music, which is a very awesome topic that I am always really excited about talking because I love music and in particular video game music, and I'm sure you do too since you suggested it. So I'm very excited about today's topic.
That's actually kind of why I wanted to talk about this. The first reason why I wanted to do this topic and why I pitched to the Snowman is that I'm not really a big music guy by any means. I don't listen to a lot of modern tracks. I don't really go back to listen to a lot of classic songs. I don't even know that much on music theory. The most I do know extends from my knowledge from 6th grade band. And that was like 7 years ago at this point. So,
yeah.
But if there's one music that I do love to listen to all the time, anytime, it's video game music because there's so many different kinds that you can pick from, and there's just so many great games and so many great soundtracks that it's impossible not to develop an appreciation for that. And that's what you'll find on my phone. That's what you find on my iPod is all video game music. So whenever someone asks me in like real life, what kind of music do you listen to? I'm always kind of nervous. Like, should I tell them that I'm a complete nerd, that video game music is all I listen to?
That is good though, because we have very different experiences with that then. Because I'm a big music guy. I love all sorts of different genres of music, and then just video game music is what you would say. I like that though. That's good because we definitely have that in common, even though with a difference in what we like.
And another reason why I want to talk about this is a few months back ago on snoCast, you had art and video games with tech, and you talked mostly about like visual art in that episode. You talked a little bit about art behind storytelling, but you've never mentioned art in conjunction with music.
That's a good point,
and I think that really plays a big part in what makes video games an art form and why so many people push it to say that video games are indeed art.
That's a really good point, yeah, and I'm sure we will definitely touch on that today. I didn't know exactly where to begin, but maybe just like, what are some of your favorite music tracks in video games? And I didn't know. I wrote some down, but I'm not sure the best segue other than to just say, let's start there. What are some of your favorites?
Well, I have a few favorite soundtracks. One that comes to mind in particular, because it's a game I've just been playing a whole lot of recently. No one's probably going to be surprised when I say this, but one of my favorites is Fire Emblem Awakening soundtrack.
I would have never known.
Anyone who knows me would probably just like, duh, can you just shut up about this game now?
I knew you would mention Fire Emblem just by knowing you, and that's good because I still have never played one. So you'll cover that side, and I'll just nod in agreement.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't really know how to describe the music theory side of video game soundtracks, but I just really like this one in particular. I wouldn't say that it immediately struck out to me. In fact, I didn't really realize that this was one of my favorite video game soundtracks until after I beat the game and many of the songs started replaying in the end credits, and I'm like, I like these songs.
Yeah.
So that's how I really came to appreciate how good this soundtrack was, and it was through time. And I think that's how you appreciate many video game soundtracks.
Yeah.
But all of the songs of Fire Emblem Awakening, at least in my opinion, they're all good. What I really like is during gameplay, when you're just planning things out on the strategy board, the music's not necessarily calm, but it helps you relax a little bit, which is how you should feel when you're trying to plan something out. You don't want to make impulse decisions under stress. But once you initiate a battle, then the song transitions into this ablaze format where more instruments are added, like trumpets are going, and the energy just increases overall.
Yeah.
And then once that battle is done, it just goes back into the calm, relaxing, regular format. And that's just one of my favorite touches in this game. I purposely waited out for the perfect moments in the song to just play the ablaze format. It's like, okay, just wait 20 more seconds. The really great song or part of the song's coming up. Gotta just wait for it. Here it is. Boom. There we go. Did I ever mention I'm a Fire Emblem nerd?
Yeah, we could just do a Fire Emblem cast. We could just talk about that the whole time.
If you want me back, I'm so down for that. I don't claim to be an expert by any means. I've only played 3 of the games so far, but I'm right here.
Yeah, maybe once I play through them, we'll come back and we'll say, okay, this is why it's awesome. And I'll be like, yeah, it is. But what you were saying, though, about, because I feel a great soundtrack captures the mood, right, of what you're feeling in that moment. And that's kind of what you were mentioning. And I absolutely, the ones that I think of do exactly that, where what you need to feel in that moment, the music only enhances that.
Yeah.
And that makes a great soundtrack.
One of the other songs in Fire Emblem Awakening is called ID, just ID, as in the the part of your subconscious that makes impulse decisions, which makes no sense in terms of Fire Emblem, but hey.
Right.
But the interesting thing about it is that it's not one song. It reprises itself 7 different times over the course of Fire Emblem Awakening. In the beginning of the game, there's a song that plays called Id Serenity. It's very calm, very relaxing, and it's just an overall happy song to listen to. Mm-hmm. And then there's Id Dilemma and Id Darkness, which are very tense. It's in a very difficult situation for our heroes. Id Sorrow is when things just get really sad and depressing. Mm-hmm. And then my favorite song from the game, Id Purpose, is just this high-energy track. It plays during the final level. It's so amazing. I want to just do a video and talk about that, or find a way to include in a video to talk about why Id Purpose is the greatest song in all of video games. And if you disagree, you are clearly wrong. Go play Fire Emblem Awakening.
That's awesome. I only assume because of my limited experience with it, but it's all very orchestral, right? Fire Emblem is very much
yeah, that's the best
music.
way to describe it.
And that's good. When I think of some of my favorite music, I almost go back to some really classics. The NES has some really, really good tracks. And part of that, too, is just because I love chiptune music. And so I'll talk about that in a bit. But like I think of like Mega Man 2, just almost that whole game, but especially like Wily's Castle, one of the best tracks. Most people would say like that's one of the best video game tracks of all time. The DuckTales Moon theme is amazing, and those are just like NES ones, but those pop into my mind, and I don't know why, if it's because they are like classics or if it's because they're that good and they've always stuck with me. I don't know. They're very catchy, but those are some of my favorites, and they're some of the oldest.
And along those NES soundtracks, one of the recent games that one of the recent games I played last year, I'm sure many of you have played it as well, Shovel Knight comes to mind, and that falls into the same vein as Mega Man and DuckTales and Castlevania and all that, because even though it's a new game, the soundtrack is very memorable because it's supposed to be high energy, and it just really gets you in that platforming mood, and it just drives you to do great things in these wonderful levels. And what I like about them is at the beginning of them, usually just easy in the song, they're not too intense, but once you start getting into it, and it doesn't take too long to do so, that's when they start going, and that's when you just pop them in your brain. I remember it so well. They're great.
Yeah, I had Shovel Knight on my list big time because that was one of my favorite soundtracks. It talk about capturing the mood, right? Because everything's perfect. Like the town theme is just so fitting for that, where it's just you're in a village. It's not high energy, it's not crazy, but it's like it's perfect for just exploring and going around a town, talking to people, and then contrast that with the first level, like Plains of Passage, one of the best tracks in the game, one of my favorites in it. Super high energy, and it just fits with what you're doing. That game has a phenomenal soundtrack, and yeah, you're right. It kind of has that old NES chiptune style to it, which might be part of the reason I like it, and yet it also feels like it expands from that. It's not just a simple chiptune track either. But it's good stuff.
And another soundtrack I have written down go along the same vein. It's from a platformer game, except it's to a completely different tone and music, and that game is Donkey Kong Country, my favorite Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
And the music in that game, not really high energy at all, except for maybe the first few levels with Jungle Hijinks. A lot of that music is very slow and atmospheric. Like everyone thinks of Aquatic Ambience and the caves, and they should, because those are just some really solid tracks, and they're slow, and you wouldn't really expect that in a platformer game, but it feels like those songs are meant to just have you take your time with those levels, enjoy them, enjoy the soundtrack. They're really great, and don't get me wrong, there are songs in the game that do have the higher energy, like in the minecart levels and the factory, and the music in that game does a really good job of making you feel in the mood, like this is how I should be feeling. And I think that's just one of the more important aspects of video game songs in general. They should have you fit the mood of the situation. That's why video game songs are so important. Yeah.
Very ambient. Yeah, I had Donkey Kong Country on my list as well, and that's the perfect word to describe it. It's very ambient, almost just like natural things you would hear in those levels. Talk about mood, fitting a level. Like the ice levels just sound like things you would hear in ice level. Aquatic Ambience is like, it just sounds like you're underwater in this cave and stuff. Perfect fitting for those things. Like the very first level, Jungle Hijinks, and then it's that. It sounds like you're in nature in a jungle, and it's perfect. Fits those moods exactly. And I also had Donkey Kong Country 2 in mind as well, because it's less ambient and more memorable melodic tunes, but it still had just that feel to it, very Donkey Kong feel, which isn't a good way to explain it, but that's just what it is. I don't know. It was more song.
I'll confess that I
What?
I will confess that I did not find the songs in Donkey Kong Country 2 as memorable. Of course, there's exceptions to that, like Sticker Brush Symphony. Everyone remembers that song.
Yeah.
Their grandmothers remember that song. Their great-grandmothers remember that song. It's that's definitely one of the highlights in the soundtrack. it's not a bad soundtrack by any means. I just can't really remember more songs than that.
Mm-hmm.
Except for maybe Jib Jig. Jib Jig is great. And Lockjaw.
I was thinking Lockjaw. Lockjaw's a really good one. And I was just going to mention David Wise because it's just, wow, he's a great job. One of the best video game composers that I can think of. His songs don't get like stale or repetitive. Like anything he touches, I feel like can just be a perfect little song for that level. And it's not like any of his other ones. Like any song that he makes is not like other ones that he's already made. That's why I like it.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, but Donkey Kong Country in general, that was definitely one that I had on my list. Very memorable. Some of my favorite video game music comes from that game. I also had F-Zero. F-Zero has a fantastic soundtrack.
I have not played much as F-Zero at all. I've only ever played the game on the Super Nintendo, or the one on the Super Nintendo, and the Mario Kart tracks. So I don't know too much about F-Zero, so indulge me.
Well, those are the ones that you would have heard then, because the ones on the Mario Kart tracks are the main ones, and the Super Nintendo is where those started. So like they have different ones like Mute City, Big Blue, and you might know Big Blue too from Smash Bros. Brawl. I think they had Big Blue.
I figure if you have played Smash Brothers, then you are familiar with either Mute City or Big Blue.
Exactly, yeah. And those are the main ones. There are definitely others, but like Mute City I think is my favorite, and that's just really good. The whole game is high energy, so they're great high energy tracks. Like we've talked about ones where they're very diverse. You know, sometimes they're slower when you need to be slower, and sometimes they're fast. F-Zero is just constant energy. That whole game is high octane music, and it's really, really good. Yeah, good tracks.
The F-Zero sounds like a good series to try and get into again. The Super Nintendo one, it's fine, but it's kind of underwhelming, showing its age.
Well, yeah.
Not to say that's bad, but I feel like
the SNES can't really handle what that wants to be. You know, I mean, just like Super Mario Kart, it's like I get what you're trying to do, but there's better ones later.
I will confess though that what I have seen of like F-Zero GX, that looks rad as heck,
dude. We were talking before we started recording about SGDQ, which is going on right now. F-Zero GX is one of the best speed games to watch because it is insane. It's so fast. The game is just made to be run.
Are they playing that game this year, or?
I don't know if it's on this year's schedule, but it's definitely a fan favorite because it's
probably on YouTube or something, so I could check it out later.
Well, there have definitely been runs in the past a lot. It's just the whole game is fast, so it's like a speedrunner's dream. It's perfect. But anyway, that was one soundtrack. F-Zero is phenomenal. I was going to mention just chiptune in general, because chiptune music, like there's music now that is just based on video game music. That's not it wasn't in video games, but people made an entire genre of music just because of this love of video game music that we were talking about before, and that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of spacing out here, but I want to say this is one of my favorite games on the NES, but it's not because it's super hard and I can't even get past the second level. But Journey to Silius is one that comes to mind with great chiptune soundtrack.
Yeah.
I really want to like that game, but again, it's super hard and I'm such a scrub that I can't get past the second level.
Yeah.
But it has a phenomenal soundtrack. It really gets going right away from the title screen, and then it just keeps adding on from there with the different level themes. It's superb.
I think I remember watching Game Grips play that and thinking that the soundtrack was really good, but I'd have to look at it again. But that was good. Are there other modern games that you've been playing that you really like soundtracks?
Well, I can't think of a modern game. This one, I've been playing Earthbound Beginnings recently, and it just really made me think of the Earthbound on Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. And had you asked me a few months ago, even before I played Fire Emblem Awakening, I would have told you that Earthbound was my favorite soundtrack, and there's good reason for that. It's definitely the most diverse soundtrack in any game I've played to this date, classic or modern. It's a very quirky game, and it really makes you aware of that. The music is very happy and bouncy in like the towns, and Saturn Valley and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is not afraid to make you feel tense when the situation is unsettling.
Yeah.
Like during the battles, obviously, some unsettling music can play when you're facing a weird enemy. But one of my favorite parts in the game is when you go to this place called Moonside, and it's just like this psychedelic LSD fever dream sort of thing. It's a very interesting part of the game, and the music in there is just also very distorted, very unsettling. And again, and along the line of scary tracks, the final boss of the game, Gygus,
yeah.
the fight is just super frightening, and the music only capitalizes on that.
Yeah.
I was legitimately terrified just listening to the song.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I wasn't even playing Earthbound when I first heard the Gygus theme. I was I was hearing it in another YouTube video, and I was ready to crap my pants and go cry to my mommy. That's how frightening how frightening it was.
Yeah.
I'm serious though. And even like the final phase of that fight, there isn't music as much as it is just static playing in the background.
Yeah.
It's super weird, super scary, but it's a very memorable final boss for a reason.
Final boss themes in general are important and, can make or break a boss fight. Going back, I think of Donkey Kong Country, like the King K. Rool fight. Phenomenal song, one of my favorites, and it really made that fight that much more epic. It starts all piratey, and you're on a pirate ship, and it's like, oh, we're just fun, like, haha, pirates. And then it's like, no, this is serious, and it gets, like, really good song.
It does, though. And
doesn't it?
It is very great.
Yeah. I also think, and this is a big jump from what we were just saying, but Final Fantasy X, I don't know if you've played that, but when you fight Jecht he's like one of the final bosses, it's like there's like heavy metal music, and it's like really weird because the whole rest of the game is not like that at all. It's, typical Final Fantasy fight music, but then there's like this weird heavy metal track, and there's like screamo and stuff, and it's like, this is weird, but I love it, because then there's like electric guitar, and they're like soloing, and it's like, oh, I love it, but it seems out of place, but like it's memorable to me. I remember that boss fight because of that, and I liked it. But final bosses,
like I said,
that's important.
Yeah, like I said before, Purpose is definitely one of my favorite final level themes. Of course, because it is the greatest video game song of all time.
I have to listen to it now. I do. I gotta go check it out.
I really love that song, and I'm probably hyping up so much that you'll be like, "This song sucks. What was he talking about?"
I'll definitely need to check it out.
But no, that's one of my favorites. But on the opposite side of the spectrum of video game final boss music, Ocarina of Time, the final fight against Ganon, that's not very energetic at all. It's very slow, very methodic in its approach, and a lot of people remember that song very well. And it shows you that both types of songs can work. You just have to find the approach for the right one.
Well, and there are some that are opposite on purpose. Like in Dark Souls, the final boss in Dark Souls is nothing but like very simple piano, and it's like really happy piano, and it's really dissonant in this like really hard boss fight. But I mean, people have gone really in depth about that and everything, about how just it's metaphorical, and how like it's actually sad, and that you end up killing this guy, and like, are you really the bad guy? Like, it's this weird. It really makes you think, and it's not just your typical, like, because the dude is like a big guy with a fire sword, and it's like epic, and then it's nothing but like really happy, simple piano, and it's like, this is really bizarre, but it sent a message, and that was their goal. And so, like you said, it can work even if it's not what you would expect, which is cool. Just further how like video game music can be art like that, because it can send all sorts of different messages that whatever the game wants to send to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. One I was thinking of about... And Steve Ohobo made a video on this.
Steve O! Mention him every snoCast.
I got to mention him, because it was funny, because when I thought of this, I knew I'd have to mention him. Ori and the Blind Forest. I don't remember if we've talked about Ori and the Blind Forest, or if you played it, but...
If you could just save as many details for me as possible.
Yeah.
I really want to play that game, and I've been trying to avoid as much video content as possible.
I won't tell you anything about the game or anything, but that the music is beautiful. It's kind of like we were saying about Fire Emblem, very orchestral, very emotional music. And the reason I mentioned Steve-O is he mentions this in his video on it, that it obviously fits different moods. It's like high intensity when there's high intense moments, and slow and melodic and beautiful at like less intense moments. But there's this one theme that's like the main Ori and the Blind Forest theme that is throughout the whole game, and you'll see it pop up in different areas, and it'll be from different instruments and different speeds and different things depending on what you're doing, but you'll see it pop up over and over again. And I didn't really mention it or realize it until Steve-O mentioned that it does that. It continually puts in this theme that you hear over and over again, and I just thought that's really cool. And I don't know a lot of games that do that. It's funny that you mention that, because Fire Emblem Awakening does something very similar. Right.
Because there's like this sort of beat that plays a whole bunch of different songs throughout the game. It goes like dun 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 dun. You'll hear that in a whole bunch of different songs.
Yeah.
You'll hear that in almost every single song, and it just like sparks that sense of familiarity to you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it at first, but when I did, I'm like, oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I love this game even more.
Yeah, it's when a game can pull that off, it's actually really impressive. I think of like GoldenEye 007, because like the main theme where it's like right, but when you pause the game and he looks at his watch, it's like an elevator music rendition of the same tune. It's like bum 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 bum, and it's just like I don't know. It's things like that where it's like, I see what you did there. Took that same theme but made it different with what you're doing, and so I always am impressed when games can pull that off. And Ori and the Blind Forest did that really well. You hear it over and over again, and that's really cool. It gives that cohesion feel to it.
Dang it, Snow! I told you before I need to stop spending money. You're making me gonna go out and spend more money.
Hey, if there is a game this year to buy, in my opinion, that one's worth it. It's right. Amazing, but you're right. Okay. Save up for it and then buy it. Yeah, it's really, really good. When I think about like themes like that popping up over and over again, it's funny because this isn't a game, but I think of Dragon Ball Z, which is just funny to me. But like each character in Dragon Ball Z has their own theme song, basically, at least in the English dub when I watched it and stuff. Like there's a Gohan theme and there's a Vegeta theme and stuff. And a lot of times when they come in or they're like doing something crazy, it'll play their theme. And so again, it just makes you feel that like connection to those characters, or I don't know, there's something about it that I think that's a really good thing when you're able to, instead of just play some random song that sounds cool in that moment, if you're able to like sprinkle in these moments of, oh yeah, that song was before when this happened, and you connect the dots yourself, and music can do something like that, which is really powerful. Yeah, and going along what you said, I unfortunately can't name any off the top of my head. In fact, I didn't write any of my notes either. But I really do love it when characters have their own separate themes. RPG games do that a lot, for sure. Yeah. And there are plenty of games out there that do something where a character will have one theme and it plays throughout the game. I guess Chrono Trigger would be a good example of that. By the way, Chrono Trigger, also one of my favorite soundtracks. Yeah, great soundtrack. Yeah. Also very diverse. Mm-hmm. I love that game, love that soundtrack. Very good stuff. Yeah, I can't think of many others either off the top of my head, but I know that they happen a lot. I know that does happen where they'll bring back other themes and reprises and stuff, and that's always really good when a soundtrack can do that. Yes. Just other ones I was going to mention. Hotline Miami, really, really good soundtrack, and especially fitting for the theme of the game because it's like based in the 80s and the music is very 80s. I don't know, synth is the best word, like whatever you want to call it, but it very much fits with that game and the style.
I don't have any written down for this one. I guess I wrote it down because I knew I wanted to talk about it, but I guess I just didn't write any details. But one of my favorite games of all time is Cave Story. I'm sure many people are at least familiar with it.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. Again, I didn't write any notes down for it, so I don't know what I was going to talk about. But
it's good.
I love that soundtrack, and sometimes that's all you really need to like a soundtrack is just to love it. Because I can't say anything about it off the top of my head. I can't really just describe it, but I remember almost every song in that game.
Yeah, they're very memorable.
Yes, exactly. So good.
Mm-hmm. And you're right, like, sometimes that can power through, even if it's, if it's not necessarily that it fits or whatever. Like, if it's just memorable, that's great. That's, if it's good and catchy and people like it and it's memorable, there you go. I've talked about this when I've streamed before, and I think I mentioned this maybe in another snoCast, but I'm impressed when RPGs do this, when just their battle theme in any RPG, like, when you're doing a random battle, I think of like Mario RPG, Super Mario RPG, or even Paper Mario, just like the battle themes in those games, how you hear that song how many times when you play through the game? Hundreds, right? And yet it doesn't get old. Like Super Mario RPG, you hear that battle theme so many times, and yet every time it's like, oh yeah, this song, and you can get into it. And I just think, how impressive is that to write a piece of music that you don't get sick of after you hear it 200 times, And that's just playing through it one time.
And I guess that also goes for just even the regular Mario games in general, because how many times have we heard the original Super Mario Bros. Ground theme? How many times have we heard Super Mario Bros. 3's ground theme, Super Mario World's ground theme? The Bob-omb Battlefield theme in Super Mario 64. We've heard it dozens, hundreds, thousands of times. And how many of us are sick of it? I can't name a person who is.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, yeah. How hard is that? Because I feel like if I wrote anything that I was proud of and thought, this could be a really good video game song, I'd get sick of it after, 100 probably times. Like, yeah, okay, this is enough. But wow, that's crazy to, like, if you force a player to listen to a song like in a battle theme, obviously it needs to be good, but man, I'm impressed when it's that catchy that we love it, even though we listen to it so much.
Yeah.
Like, I think of Final Fantasy as well, because they always have the same battle theme, but I'm never sick of it. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why you really have to give a lot of credit to these composers, the people who write the songs.
Yeah.
Because even if you think about it, like, how many people know the main programmer of Super Mario Brothers, and how many people know the main composer? Chances are you probably know Koji Kondo is the main or the composer of Super Mario Brothers more than whoever the programmer is. And composers, I feel like, get a lot of credit, maybe even more credit sometimes than the actual like game directors themselves, the ones you hear about behind all these games. And I don't think that credit is unwarranted at all. They have a very important job.
Right.
The music in video games, it has a lot to live up to, and if it doesn't, then the whole game itself can be diminished, or the experience in some way can be dented upon. That's why their job is just so important. That's why it's so impactful to get it right the first time.
Yeah, they're very deserving, exactly, because it's so important. And man, they're intricate. When I think of like Final Fantasy or something, they're incredibly composed. They're just so intricate, and there's so many different things going on. Compare that to, I guess it's easy to just like rag on pop music or whatever, but you listen to that, and then you listen to the intricacy of video game music, and wow, it's on a different level. And
I guess
obviously there's intricate music out there that's not video game music, but it's up there.
Now that you mention that, I'm thinking about another one of my favorite games, Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube. In the Japanese version and the PS3 remake, the song that plays during like the intro anime cutscene is this weird J-pop song, but in the English version on the GameCube, it's this very powerful orchestral soundtrack to go along with it. I like the orchestral stuff more just because it's that much more intense.
Yeah.
And when I listen to J-pop, I'm just like, this does not fit. Get it out of here, please.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this might be hard to think of if we haven't thought of this ahead of time, but are there games that you can think of where the soundtrack just did not fit at all with the game?
There's two soundtracks that come to mind. One of them is a recent one, Splatoon. A lot of people like that soundtrack. I don't. I think it's just absolutely atrocious. I guess I can see the appeal of it, and it does a good enough job, but I just don't find it appealing. There's like one song that plays during like the online multiplayer battles that's just Squid Screamo. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's just like, what am I listening
Squid
to?
Screamo.
Why am I listening to it?
I haven't played it yet, but I had the demo when they did the global test fire, and the one time I tried to do it was when no one could connect that time and everyone was getting kicked out and everything. And so all I heard over and over again was like the theme where it's just like, and like, I don't know, I heard that like 30 times in a row because like it kept kicking me out and I got sick of it already.
Yeah.
But that's my one taste with Splatoon, so that's not really fair, I guess. But
speaking of games that I've not played, I have not played this one at all. I've only listened to a few of the songs, but those few songs made me cringe and cry so much. I would not want to put myself in the trouble of listening to the soundtrack. And that is Yoshi's New Island for the 3DS.
Oh, yeah.
Just look up Yoshi Clan, song number 4, or whatever it was called. You'll realize how much kazoo is in that soundtrack and how much it does not need to be there.
Kazoo. Lots of kazoo.
I almost like that soundtrack just because of how awful it is.
For myself, it's not so much that I think of like this is a bad fit of a soundtrack, but maybe a better word is just forgettable. Like if there are just forgettable soundtracks, because I know I mentioned earlier that Dark Souls did it was really artistic with the final boss, but the whole rest of that game, it's all the same to me. Like I did a video on Dark Souls a long time ago and tried to look up different music to put in the background, and it's all the same. Like if it's not a boss fight, which all the boss fights are the same, where it's just like, you know, pounding bump 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 bump, like, you know, boss music. The rest is just like really, really simple melodic, like one girl voice singing, and that's the whole game. There's nothing memorable about it to me.
Yeah.
And I love the game, but man, the music was disappointing.
I guess that also kind of goes for a lot of modern soundtracks these days. Not to say that modern game soundtracks are bad, but they're just so forgettable, and that's why a lot of people remember the older games so much more fondly, is because they have those strong melodies that just stick in your head. One of the big examples is the Assassin's Creed games. I played a good chunk of them before I turned 15 and realized they were like releasing them every year and I needed to stop for a bit. But I only remember maybe 1 or 2 songs out of all the games. There's not that many to choose from. And it is a good soundtrack, or I like the Two and Brotherhood soundtrack in particular, but the music is just not at all memorable.
Well, it's hard too, because I feel, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like orchestral soundtracks run into that problem a lot, where it's hard to make an orchestral soundtrack that sounds different, or at least that is memorable, you know? I mean, unless you do what we were talking about earlier about with themes and kind of repeating themes, it's really hard to have it be distinguishable, I feel like.
I guess I can agree with you there, because I might say that orchestral soundtrack and symphonic soundtracks are my favorite genre that normal people would listen to, that are not me and just listen to video game music all day.
Yeah.
But even like another recent example, Skyward Sword, a lot of people like to hit on Zelda Skyward Sword because, well, for many reasons, but one of them is that they think the soundtrack wasn't that strong. And I can see where they're coming from. It does take a little bit of effort to remember those songs, more than any other Zelda game for sure. I still like the soundtrack. I still like that game overall. But I can see what they mean for it wasn't as memorable to them, or why it didn't stick out to them as much.
But I do almost feel like that it's not their fault, that it's because it's orchestral, you know? I wrote on my thing actually about Mario, and kind of when they went to Galaxy and Galaxy 2 and they took Mario 2 kind of an orchestral soundtrack, I didn't like it as much, and it didn't, I don't know, it didn't have that flair that it used to have. And maybe it is just the fact that it's not quite as memorable melodic, it's more just orchestra, and so it's that. But I don't know, I didn't like it as much. And Zelda, I think, fell into that same way. Like, if you compare Ocarina of Time, where it's all those songs, it's like, yes, that song, oh, that song, I love that. Those memorable melodies, it's just not there.
I don't know if you watch the extra credits, guys,
yeah.
at all. I remember they talked about video game music for one of their episodes. And the thing they mentioned for that is that, of course, we shouldn't, like, go back to the days of the old when we had like the chiptune songs and stuff like that. But the reason why our music's been getting less memorable over the years is because we have less limitations to work under. Back then on the NES, you only had 3 audio tracks to work with at a time, so you really had to make a strong melody. But now you can have so many different instruments playing at the same time, so many different soundtracks playing for one instance. You don't really need to worry about those limitations anymore, and the composers can go wild. And that's not to say that they shouldn't. Like I said, the modern soundtracks are good, but they're just not memorable because they don't have those limitations to work under.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you would almost think it'd be the opposite, that if you're limited, it wouldn't be as good. That's the original instinct, but it turned out to be the opposite. The more melodious, even though they're simple, you know, just because of limitations, those are the ones that stick around in our brain more. Yeah, that is interesting, but that's exactly right. Huh. I mean, there isn't like a solution to that. It's just like, yep, that's the way it is.
Is it like with franchise fatigue? Are we the problem?
We need to just appreciate all music.
Watch Snowman and Rasputin. Shout out to Rasputin.
Yeah.
Let's mention him on every snoCast now. Let's see how he likes it.
Oh, good. Yes, I agree. But it's, I don't know. I would like to see more things like older music to return, but I think we are just in those games that are in that same style too, like Shovel Knight, where the whole game is kind of a love letter to the days of yore, you know? So I think, we see.
They did have to
Sorry, go ahead.
For Shovel Knight, they did have to force themselves under those restrictions as well, because they wanted to make their songs with the ability to play on an actual NES in mind. I think they cheated a little bit. I think they made it play on like a Japanese NES, which has more audio capabilities. But regardless, they had those limitations to work under again, and I think it really helped drive the soundtrack a little bit more than what it could have been otherwise.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you earlier. What were you saying?
That's honestly, I don't remember now. I think it was just.
Oh man,
that.
No, I feel bad.
I don't remember. Just that, yeah, you're going to see it more in those games that are supposed to be like those older games. And you're right, they purposefully limited themselves. I noticed when I tried to do pixel art of Shovel Knight stuff, all the Shovel Knight things are in the old NES limitations of color too. They all have like 5 or less colors, which is crazy impressive because they still look so detailed, even though they've purposefully limited the colors, which is really cool. But, yeah, that was just my thought.
It's very interesting to see, like, what needs to be worked with and what needs to be addressed with limitations in mind, as well as, like, what can we do within those limitations.
Well, because I think it can still be, we can still have memorable, melodious things, even with, you know, modern and orchestral and symphony stuff. They just need to be more intentional about it, I guess. I don't know. Hey, it's hard to say because I don't want it to sound like I'm just like ragging on all modern game music, but
it is a very fine line, and one that I certainly don't know how to solve either. Like I said, the last knowledge I had of music theory was back in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
A long time ago for me at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know like what goes into music. I tried making a song in Family Tracker once, and it was an annoying 5-second loop that I would not want anyone to listen to. So
that's really
it's
funny
because
I did too.
I don't know how to solve it.
Yeah,
I certainly don't know how to solve that issue. Sometimes I feel like I don't know if you necessarily need to solve that issue because maybe not to say that it's necessarily better, but maybe it's fine as it is that video game music just kind of sits in the background as well.
Well, yeah, like Donkey Kong Country, it wasn't the forefront of the game. Like it wasn't boom in your face music. It was meant to kind of be in the background, you know. And I guess if that's what you're going for, then yeah. Ori and the Blind Forest is a good example though, because it is very much that modern symphonic music, and yet it's like, oh yeah, I know that tune so much in my head. Theming is important.
Mm-hmm. It almost seems to me that much like with how indie games are like setting new standards for their genres and setting new standards for the gaming market now, they're also kind of doing the same thing with music. Like what you said, Ori and the Blind Forest, according to you, a good example of an indie game soundtrack. I really like Cave Story.
Mm-hmm.
I love that soundtrack a lot. So maybe indies are our hope for making memorable modern day music, just like how we look up to them to hopefully make us better games than what we could get with the AAA market.
Super Meat Boy is another one that I think of.
Okay. Yeah.
Really good.
I haven't played that game in a while, but definitely some good songs there.
And it's its own style. I mean, I know that's Danny Baranowski. That's another really good indie composer. But that's not chiptune and that's not modern orchestra. It's just its own thing, which is cool. But you're right. I mean, totally. I think indies do kind of set a new standard for that as well. Other games need to step it up.
Come on, step it up. You're too slow. Sonic also. I can't say I could particularly care for like Sonic games in general.
Yeah.
But they do have some good music. Rooftop Run from Unleashed is one of my favorite songs like ever. I really like City Escape. I really like Metal Harbor from Sonic Adventure 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic does have really good songs.
They do, yeah.
Even with some of the games being lesser or bad or what have you.
Ice Cap Zone.
Definitely.
Super, super good. It's funny, though, because I've talked about Sonic in the past and how it's fast and then it's slow.
Shout out to our boy Adam.
Yeah, with load save.
This isn't the video game snoCast. It's the reference older snoCast.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention every snoCast we've done. How it's fast and slow, and they slow down the pace by doing slower levels. Those levels too, I feel like have less, songs. Like the really good, memorable levels have the good, memorable tracks, like Green Hill Zone. Okay, boom, I know that song. But then, whatever the second one is, Marble or Chemical Plant or anything like that, where it's like, it's just the song's okay. It plays an important part in how you view a level.
Yeah. I don't know where to go from here. Where can we go?
Call. Any last thoughts on video game music?
Well, we talked about the importance of video game music and why it is so great, why it needs to be there.
Yeah.
That's never really more obvious than when no video game music is playing at all.
Yeah.
One of my recent memories is I was fighting the Kezu monster in Monster Hunter, and the thing about that fight is that no music plays whatsoever. I thought it was a glitch at first, but I keep going back to fight that monster, and there's no music. And to me, that makes it one of the more boring fights in the game, which is really a shame because the Kezu is actually kind of a cool monster in concept. But the fact that there's no music there, it really makes the fight drag on, or at least feel like it's dragging on more than it needs to. So I don't know if you can I don't know if you can think of like any other instances where no music plays in a video game, but to me, when that happens, I cannot get into it at all.
Sometimes, you'll play a free game online or like something, a browser game, and there's no background music, and it's terrible. I played a game that's free on Steam called You Have to Win the Game, and there's no background music in that game at all. It's purely silent. And I remember distinctly thinking, this game would be so much better, even if it was something really simple or just a really basic melody, that would make it 10 times better than silence. No music is just crappy. That's how important it is, I think,
Yeah.
I don't know, unless it's for like a dramatic effect at one moment in a game.
Even like horror games stick out to me as games that do that quite a bit. And I'm not too big of a fan of horror games because I'm so afraid of getting scared, even though when I do actually sit down and play them, I don't even get scared at all. So the whole effort was wasted. But a lot of horror games, like, they won't have music playing, and if they do, they'll have like some kind of sounds of ambience in the background. And as long as it has that ambience, it makes it so much better than compared to having no music. Like, I don't think the Five Nights at Freddy's games have like music playing in the background at all.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think Resident Evil might have like those ambient tunes in the background. And I'm not really big on either of those franchises, so I don't really know too much about them. But even horror games, in my opinion, they need something.
Yeah. Ambience better than silence, for sure. Yeah. Well, good thoughts. I was there were a few other things that I was mentioning. We were talking about chiptune earlier. There are some games that have really good chiptune that are even modern, and not necessarily chiptune, but just like electronic tracks. So like the game Electronic Superjoy or Crypt of the Necrodancer just have phenomenal soundtracks that are like electronic, which I really like because I just like that style of music. I was going to mention Grant Kirkhope because great composer, and obviously, great for the games he's done. Banjo-Kazooie, phenomenal soundtracks he's done, GoldenEye and other rare works. But I will say this about Grant Kirkhope is his music does tend to sound similar after a while.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not.
Because even as a kid, when I play Banjo-Kazooie, I really like the soundtrack a lot. And then I go to play like Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
And I can tell that they're made by the same guy, and that was just like amazing to me because Grant does have a very distinct style to him.
I agree completely. In fact, I played another game he did, a free online game called Enchanted Cave 2, like just a weird off game, and he did the soundtrack for that. And same, you're like, yep, that's Grant, like you know it, and it's actually pretty cool. I do like that he kind of has a signature sound. But Ukulele, I heard the track he did for Ukulele, and I just thought like, yeah, it's
I was all right with it. I was all right with it.
Yeah, no, it is good, but I just thought like, I just felt like, that's Banjo-Kazooie. Like it'd be cool if he branched out or something, and maybe he will. It's probably just a teaser, but I don't know. That was
probably
my one thing.
Something to make the Banjo fans happy.
Yeah.
But now that you do mention Grant Kirkhope, something that's been saving in the back of my mind for the right time to talk about it is that you hear a lot of YouTube videos out there, a lot of smaller game reviewers putting like Banjo-Kazooie music or Donkey Kong music in their videos, and people are just like, please stop, we're sick of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to ask you, like, what's your thoughts? Can video game music sound not necessarily worse to you, but can you just really get sick of it if it's played too many times, even though it could be like one of your favorite soundtracks.
Yes. I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about of how it's used. It's kind of funny because in the game it needs to fit the right mood, right? I think a lot of times YouTubers use it in the wrong spots. They'll use it because it's their favorite song or they really like the song, so they want to use it, but it doesn't fit what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if that's the case, I feel like it'd be like, oh, of course, they just used that song because they just did, instead of, I don't know, fitting the mood of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I've used Banjo-Kazooie music in my
I have too. I'm not saying that we're perfect, but...
Right. Because I super am, and Donkey Kong as well. I use Donkey Kong music all the time. So I'm super guilty of it. But, I don't know. I think it's important to think of the mood you're talking about. Like, if you're doing a video on, let's just say, like, forest levels, you know, using the Lost Woods theme. Hey, perfect idea, you know, instead of the beach theme from Banjo-Kazooie. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, even if it's a good song, there would be a clear disconnect from what you're talking about. So
and kind of like the idea of like franchise fatigue too. Like as much as I hate to admit this, I kind of get like a little bit of overplayed music fatigue or over talked about music fatigue, because although I don't like hate the Banjo-Kazooie soundtracks, I'm kind of getting sick of listening to them because so many people use them.
I'm in that boat too. Yeah.
One of the songs you were mentioning earlier, the Mega Man 2 Wily Castle theme.
Yeah.
When I first played Mega Man 2, that was like my favorite soundtrack. But now that people like just don't shut up about it, I'm just like, I like Woodman more. Woodman's my favorite now.
I like Airman personally, but I agree totally. Yeah, those go-to tracks that are overdone, it's kind of like, all right. So, well, good. Any last things to add?
That's it for me, man. I don't know what you have.
I don't. That was great. Good talk. It is super important, right? I mean, I think we hit a good solid point earlier that it's like, man, indie games are still pushing the boundaries of that and helping us see that it's important to have a good soundtrack. Like, I think a big reason, it's obviously not the only reason that Shovel Knight was popular, but the music was a huge chunk of that game that made it so good. You know?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely one of my favorite soundtracks. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. What's of all the Shovel Knight songs, what's your favorite?
That's a really tough one. I'd have to say that Propeller Knight is my favorite.
I was going to say Propeller Knight,
very,
actually.
very, very close second goes to Tinker Knight's stage.
Yeah, that's a good one. Some of them, when they start, I'm like, oh yeah, this one's okay. But then when you get like to the middle of it, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, like Tinker Knight.
Tinker Knight's
Knight really makes it. It's because it starts out slow, and it's like, I might be able to get into this. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
And then once you start going to the middle, you're just like coming along with like.
I love Propeller Knight. That might be my favorite one. And then Strike the Earth, Plains of Passage is also good.
Yeah. The whole
it's all good.
Go on the Shovel Knight website and buy the Shovel Knight soundtrack. You won't regret it.
Seriously, the whole thing is fantastic. Well, awesome. Thanks for being on, Chris. This was a good one. A wonderful snoCast.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, we'll go to an end slate.
There's no cast like it.
No cast like snoCast. We'll put one of Chris's videos on the end slate here. You can check it out. And yeah, be on the lookout for a rebrand. That's exciting. You don't have to spoil it if you don't want to spoil it, but are there any videos on the horizon that we can look out for?
Well, I won't formally announce them, but if you like potatoes, then you might just want to stay by, because the truth will always set you free.
All right. Cryptic, and I love it. Very cool. Any closing words before we part?
I love you guys.
In case we're on the end slate and you didn't see, he got really, really close to the mic. Or the screen, I guess. The mic's on your face. Thanks one last time for being on, my friend. This was a blast. A good one. Always
Keep
fun
on
to talk
chilling
about music.
out, snow guys.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you guys on the next snoCast. Thanks for watching, as always. And if you ever have future ideas for topics for the cast, let me know in the comments below. And we'll see you guys next time.
And if you are in support of Fire Emblem Cast, holler out, my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, if you want to see Fire Emblem Cast, put that down. I do need to play it. I haven't yet. It's on my to play list.
So good, man.
Yeah. I definitely need to.
I am kind of super afraid, though. You're going to actually go and play the games now, and you're like, Potato Man was a liar. These games are not good at all. Too much hype.
I'm definitely going to go listen to id Pursuit. Is that what it is?
id Purpose.
Purpose. I'll go check it.
I might as well just link you the song in Skype.
Exactly, yeah. All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Snow.